The Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Planet with Sara. I'm Sara Payan, your host, and today we are in beautiful Reykjavík for the Hemp for the Future conference. Today I have Mariana Larrea on the show. We just did a panel yesterday. Mariana is a Mexican attorney and founder of MLA Legal, specializing in cannabis and life sciences law. She advises across Latin America, teaches at top universities, and supports regulatory development and international business in the sector. Mariana, welcome.
Thank you very much, Sara. It's my pleasure to be here and with your auditorium.
Yeah, that is so true. Well, and actually, we were talking earlier, and actually on our panel, and you were talking about the fact that you weren't always supportive of cannabis. And will you let our listeners know a little bit about your story and the shift that got you into this work?
Yes. I always say cannabis is a strategist. You know, strategist is a word? Yes, It's a strategist. Why? Because I was all the women that will never be speaking about cannabis out loud in the Congress in Mexico. Why? Because I came from a religious family. Why? Because I've never done any drug. Why? Because the people around my family, my friends, etc., are stigmatized as well. But cannabis is a strategist because she knew how to get in my life. And the first door she knocked was my work. My work is my passion. I've been a life sciences and pharmaceutical attorney for more than 10 years. And one day, this consultation about a CBD cookie coming from Canada was in my email. They just sent a consultation to the law firm. And in the law firm, I was studying the health law. So come to my desk. And at the beginning, when I started reading, I was like, cannabis. And then I thought, my boss, come on, this is one of the most traditional law firms in Mexico and with more than 90 years. So you can imagine how traditional they are.
Oh, absolutely.
So of course, no, when I came with the thing of cannabis, with a proposal of the consultation, they say, no, leave it alone. But something inside me say, you can read more, maybe, and I start. So cannabis took me back to regulation because it was starting to be regulated in Mexico. And before working in big law, I was in the Congress and in the Senate. So it was really easy for me to go back to the Congress and the Senate and start advocating. I wrote the first citizen bill for the reform in cannabis in Mexico. And in this writing is where I really understood what we were doing. And is when cannabis hooked me, but by the professional side.
Right.
Mariana is speaking, is coming, is going, is getting involved, and her dad got sick in the beginning of the pandemic. So my dad come to seal my compromise with this industry. And my dad comes to show me why I was raised as first as a life sciences attorney, which understand perfectly the big pharma industry and business. I've worked for all the German pharmaceutical companies that the holdings are in Mexico City, because in Mexico we distribute to the north and to the south. So I understand this industry. And then I need to shift it to cannabis to give it to my dad, because I swear to God that if I wouldn't be working in that industry to that point, I will never give that to my dad. I was the first stigmatized. I was advocating in the Congress for a law without understanding the application of this law till I did. And 1 hour after I obligate my father to take the drop because he was yelling to me, better kill me than drug me, he called and he says, when is my next drop? So cannabis gave him and me the chance to say goodbye in an honorable way. And my very last conversation with him, I was super mad. I didn't want him to say goodbye, but he just said, Mariana, you know what you're doing? You go. He didn't need to say anything else. I quit Big Law. I quit my work for Big Pharma. I quit my life in Mexico City, and I start again a new life where I found MLA Legal Consulting Boutique, which is a law firm. We do everything, but also cannabis. And we understand these businesses from another way, because our final purpose is to really help clients to develop businesses, not just charging fees by hour and hour and hour. So we've achieved a lot of things in the firm. We have the first, not the first, but we have permits for growing hemp, for consumption. We are registering medical devices coming from Europe, from Argentina. We are also giving consultations regarding how to export or import. And in my work, I start speaking internationally, and I explain how countries need to understand international compliance. So basically, that is how cannabis got into my family, my life, my businesses. And nowadays, I can tell I'm honored to talk about this plant, because I really think this plant choose the people who is in the industry. And I also think that this industry has been going through a lot of cleans. And if we in the very beginning, when everything started, if that in Canada was successful, and then in the States and everything, all the people at the beginning was just looking for money.
Yeah.
And this cleanse is needed to happen, because we are maintaining here the ones who really understand that there's a bigger purpose. And most of them, going back to your first question, we work from our personal platform to a social purpose. So that's a little bit of my story. Now I do smoke cannabis as well, and I close with that all the chain, because now I understand all the industries. And I am proud to say that you really need to leave this plant in all the stages for having a fully understanding of the medical side, of the adult use, of the industrial use.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, and I feel like the people who are the most successful in creating positive change have these aha moments. And we understand that it's a long game, that as challenging and difficult as it can be for us to stay in this area, we make it happen because we believe so strongly in what we're doing. And those who come for money get discouraged and leave.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we have to pay the bills realistically, but we're not looking to be the next cannabis moguls or anything like that.
And we don't want to. We want to be another option for all the industries. We want to be the sustainable option, the healthy option, the green option. And also, I think that we are going to start as an option, but the consumer criteria worldwide is changing. The University of Carnegie last year in New York made this study, and after the regulation of cannabis, 13,000 consumers of alcohol reduced it to 7,000 in 1 year. And all the other ones right now is now in the cannabis area. But you and me know the big difference which are in those behaviors, right? So if the other industries doesn't realize that wellness, that sustainable, that the Gen Z generation, the new generation, is looking for different options, for more healthy options, for more organic options, then at some point we are going to be the only option. So I think that we are in a good moment for everyone, for the cannabis industry to educate, and for the other industries to not stigmatize us, because they are going to lose a market if they do.
I'm going to take it back several years. One of the really impactful things that happened early on in my career was Vicente Fox supporting cannabis. And he was one of the first visible world leaders to have that conversation. What through your lens, what do you think the impact on that has been? And is it still continuing?
I think it was a big impact. Mm-hmm. You are the third person in the conference that asked me about this fact. Yesterday, I met someone that actually told me that he helped Vicente to develop the conference in Mexico, one of the first conferences. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a really early stage in the country was a good impact, definitely, because it still remaining that they open a big chain of CBD stores. But as in every business, if you don't do compliance and if you don't take this business with all the cards, understanding the 3 P's, I say in my conferences: patience, passion, and pesos or dollars.
I like that.
If you don't understand that, then you're not going to have any success in our industry. So maybe we start with pesos and with passion, but we need to remain and to be resilient in this industry to really have a success. So sadly, these stores didn't understand the last part, and even though they are working and they are operating right now, if they don't comply with all the administrative work, they are not going to be successful, And a thing I've learned in this industry, and as an attorney is really difficult to deal with, is that we want it or not, we come from the legacy industry. And in the legacy industry, the people operate as they can operate, not the way they should operate, So we need, and it's really, really, really take a lot of time to talk to your clients and push them to really do the things the right way, because they are used to find the easy way. And they're like, no, attorney, just give me the easy way. Like, how I am going to get the registry or my products in Mexico fastest and cheapest. And I'm like, that exactly is what we need to change. We need to build a integral industry with values and principles, commercials, values and principles that really make this reliable, And if you use these stores for other purposes, then the magnus impact that we have was lost. So that is happened. That is what happened, and I need to say it with all its letters. And I'm not ashamed to say this, because it's just like that as you build an industry. You need to go do things, get a mistake and correct it and start again. But at least we are doing things. Maybe the sound that we are doing right now in Mexico is not impacting to abroad, right? Maybe we are not in the news saying we're doing this or that, because the industry in Mexico understood that making noise was going to make more political effect than an industrial real action. So in Mexico, we have the cleans as well. So the people who is working in Mexico to the cannabis industry, they are working small, they are working slow, but they are building strong businesses. One of my friends, Brenda, she's the owner of the first feminine platform for CBD and cannabis in Mexico. So we can go to her platform. Also, we have Sara Snap. She's one of the first advocates at the ONU of the drugs policies in Mexico. We also have Polita Pepper, a big, strong advocating women in Mexico. She's speaking in Uruguay, in Brazil, in Argentina. We have Lorena Beltran, a strong businesswoman. She was the first one opening a medical cannabis conference in Mexico. So things are happening. Strong women are working for this industry. Hane has his son has autism, and she is being struggling and working for cannabis and CBD products. She was the first one bringing a CBD medicine to the social security system in Mexico because of her son. So there are a lot of examples of women that are doing things in Mexico. But as I say, we understood after the regulation in 2017 that going outside, asking for more regulations, for over regulations, is not the way. Cannabis is just needed to be considered as an ingredient or as an API if it is for medical purposes. So if the governments understand this, they are going to find much easier ways to regulate it, because those industries, cosmetics, food, beverage, supplements, drugs, medicines, every medical devices, all that is regulated. Right. All around the world. We do not need to find the needle in the, all is regulated. We just need to understand that the CBD or the cannabinoids are going to have a better purpose or a better effect in those products, and that's all.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's a common thread that comes across where, as a nascent industry, we're seeing the legacy market, people coming into it that have the skills around cannabis. And now we see people who are very passionate about cannabis that are coming from other professions and lending their talents to help us grow up and go into the next phase of being more professional, more put together. And when you were talking about patience, I think that's also a common thread, because a lot of people don't understand that if you really want to succeed in this, you need to know that it's going to take a long time and a lot of patience. Especially when I would have, especially in 2017, people who wanted to invest, and they would ask me, what should I invest in? And I would tell them, there are two things that you need to do. Do your due diligence, and know that when you find something you believe in, that it is going to be a very long trip.
Yeah, because we are not an industry. We are not in a point to be an industry that gives. Mm-hmm. We are in a point to build an industry. Mm-hmm. So you don't come to our industry to do money. You come to our industry to bring your money to do and to build the industry. And we need to be, as a plant strategist, we need to take as a beautiful plant you find and the top level of THC, in the middle of the flower, other level in the bottom, other level, and you open the plant and you have fiber, and then you use all the body of the plant, and then you have material for construction, etc. As the plant itself is so complex and so amazing, we should learn as well to navigate through the complexities of the regulation and building this market. And we need to bring, as example, me, right? What I did, I quit big law and I bring all my knowledge, all my experience to a boutique firm where I can support businesses in this industry, nascent businesses, startups, entrepreneurs, also companies, big companies and medium companies, to really understand that we need to bring what we have to build it. And that's why it's a cleansed, because a lot of people start doing business thinking in the money. And if you are that, this is not the industry for you. But if you are a person that wants to do businesses with a bigger purpose, for a plant that every time you put a seed on the soil, it is going to absorb toxic substances of the soil, is going to give us oxygen, is going to give us food, is going to give us cover, then this is your industry. And we need you, because this industry is for everyone. Like, really, as an attorney, I am impressed. Like, if you're a corporate attorney, you can work in this. If you're an energy attorney, you can work with companies developing biodiesel of cannabis, hemp. If you are a tax attorney, we need you. And we're going to need you after rescheduling, because we need to understand how that tax bank finances institutions and services and laws are going to do and change. If you are an environmental attorney, we need you, because we need to build successful ESG businesses, right? And if you are, what else? Well, regulatory as well, penal, criminal attorney, So, and I'm sure that in other industries, architecture, medicine, beauty, fashion, these textiles made with fabrics, with hemp fabrics, there's a role for you in our industry.
What are you excited and hopeful about?
I'm excited because working in this industry, as I say, makes my purpose bigger, so that makes me excited all the time. I am a life sciences attorney because I think there's nothing bigger or wealthier that you can own than your own health. But when I start to be a cannabis attorney, makes me more excited, because I really feel that when I work, I am educating. So if you come with me to a consultation, even you hire me or not, I already put my seed, and I know sooner than later that seed is going to grow. That makes me excited. Makes me excited to be in Iceland because I see how the world starts to move. Made me excited to go to Japan, to Tokyo, and to Canada this year as well. Made me excited to see how medical frameworks are changing around the world. Germany, Switzerland, Spain, Israel, Australia, Canada also is trying to expand a little bit more, even though we know they are so local.
Mm-hmm.
CBD, Uruguay just is integrating the CBD in the medical industry. Brazil is pushing really hard for the government to give the medical regulations. Right now in Brazil, you just can import medicine, but you can't really develop the pharma or the medical access. So they're fighting for that. Chile is the biggest consumer country in South America, and recreational and medical. They are also pushing for that. Argentina is already developing products and medicines and drugs and medical devices. So things are happening around all the globe, right? Latin America, Asia, Thailand also has the conference this year. So this makes me excited to work in an industry that I see that things are happening one way or the other. And what I'm hopeful that countries that are regulating right now, as Iceland, as the states that is going to go through the reschedule, etc., understand the lessons of other countries.
It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait for our next conversation. And for people who'd like to reach out to you or follow you on social media, how do they do that?
Well, I am in LinkedIn as Mariana Larrea. I'm in Instagram like marianalarrea.attorney. And I am in Facebook as Mariana Larrea. My email is mlarrea@mloboutique.com.
Thank you so much. This episode is brought to you by Fat Nugs Magazine, a global perspective of cannabis and stoner culture as a bridge to the rest of the world. Right now, you can join Fat Nugs Magazine, Beard Bros Farms, Freedom Grow, and Jailed for Weed in the upcoming Prisoners Edition and help spotlight current and past cannabis prisoners and their stories, because no one should be in jail for a plant. Find Fat Nugs Magazine's beautiful print copies at your local dispensary, fatnugsmag.com, and on socials. Cannabis culture welcomes us all. And we're back. We are at the Hemp for the Future conference in beautiful Reykjavík, and I am here with the co-founder of the Icelandic Hemp Association, Tota Jónsdóttir. Thank you so much for inviting us here, Tota, and this conference has been amazing.
Well, thank you for inviting me to your podcast, and secondly, thank you for coming all the way to Iceland to make this possible for me.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. For those of you listening, we actually met at Spannabis in Barcelona.
True.
And it was like a meeting of the minds.
Yeah, it was, really. And, we clicked right away. So I definitely think, we saw straight away something would be going on. And I have to say, the beauty with the cannabis family is that, whoever you really meet or talk to, most of them are really just in the spirit of helping and supporting each other. And this year we decided to focus more on the ladies and lady speakers and, lift the women. So you were, of course, a perfect fit. And getting to know you, Sara, is a great thing. You know that.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel the same. I feel the same. Well, and your choice to be more female focused very much seems like it reflects the ethos of your country.
Most definitely, yes, of course. And, the more lady I get to know in the industry, the more connected I seem to get and more help I get. And for me, it's just because, we don't have much research on women's health, too. There's a lot of lack of research with the periods and the endometriosis and with the menopause and all these things. And when I found out there were not really any research, I got really, really sad because I thought we were a little bit farther than that. So last year, I started to really look for research around women. And last year, I brought over Dr. Lumir, like I told you, who has done a 5 years research on endometriosis and cannabis. And we are seeing a great solutions for women there. And yeah, from there, it gave us so much. So I thought this was a great thing to focus on. And we are half of the population in the world. So guys, you're losing a big market, not researching us.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. And we're speaking to you in the language that you know called ROI.
So we use the R a lot in Iceland. So in Iceland, Icelandic is quite harsh. Maybe for me, most people think so. So we use R. So rómverskur riddari réðst inn í Rómaborg, rændi þar og ruplaði rabarbur með róum. And then you say, how many R's are in that? So, yeah. And I think that's the most difficult thing to learn Icelandic is just getting that R. Maybe you get it because you're a little bit, you're Finnish.
Okay, maybe R.
Yeah, so yes, we Scandinavian can do it. That's the thing.
I did grow up around Finnish. I understood it as a child, not so much anymore.
And it seems to be quite far away, in a way, from the other Norwegian languages. It's. I love listening to Finnish people talking. For me, it is almost like a band or something. So yeah, I feel like it's a quite different language.
Yeah. To be honest, I only remember the swears.
It's always like that, wherever you go, the first things you learn is like people teach you words and tells you that they mean even something different. And then you go and like say it to people and it's the wrong thing.
So true. So true. So how did you decide to do all of this?
So, okay, this started like 20 years ago. My friend got cancer for the second time. He was 29 years old. And we knew that he would not be with us for a long time. And he wanted to try to be with he just was newly married and his wife was pregnant. So he really wanted to be at home and wanted to be there when the child would, childbirth and everything. And so he wanted to do different things than go to the hospital. He had a throat cancer and they have taken almost half of his throat off. So you could see the cancer.
Wow.
Just, standing out of his throat. It was quite a terrible, view to see. So, and he wanted to try to make oils. He had been doing a lot of research, and everything. And I knew a little bit about cannabis. I was not, had smoked a couple of times and things like that. It was nothing like I knew much. So we ran around town and were trying to, find some guys who grow something and, and we cut a lot of sticks and leaves and things from the beginning. And, it was just experiment. But finally we made this oil and everything. And what we did, we put it on the cancer, on his throat. And what happened, it just fell down. So it just went shrank really down and his throat opened. He could eat and then it blew up again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he did that a couple of times a day. So he could keep on eating and stay at home and not getting the feeding tube and all that things. So that's my first experience. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy, but probably didn't realize at that moment what we were doing at all. So probably a year later, somebody asked me, hey, can you help me? Got diagnosed, can you help me? I met oil and we talked about and tried to do some research and it just came. I didn't choose it. I would rather say the plant chose me or something. And it just, one day and more people started to call. And I'm just the way, I can't say no to anybody who asks for help, especially, giving people guidance for feeling better if it's possible. But I always tell them, it's not for everybody. You should go easy, slow, and see where it takes you. Mm-hmm. It is an option. It's not a dangerous option and easy to quit. Mm-hmm. So, and now I get calls every day.
Wow.
All kind of, the first 10 years were probably more like helping people through the last phase of their life because people, usually have gone to every person they can go to before they go to me because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse. Sometimes I say maybe I'm a life coach for people who want to integrate into nature. But so everything I really know is just trials and error of doing and making oils and seeing how it affects my patient and taking that knowledge to the next patient. It's really, And
a life of service.
Yeah, definitely. And, always like to make people feel better if I can. And, it's been something that helps me a lot,
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and the more that I started to read about the plant, read about the history. The more you read, the more you get like, oh my God, that plant is crazy, man. That plant can do anything. So in 2019, I had been trying to import CBD for a couple of years, trying to see if we would finally get it like most people already had in Europe. 2016, more or less, the market opened up. And nothing did move. And we are way back in legalization. It's quite strange because we are very in technical company. We are very, everybody has phones and we are very informed nation. But a lot of things are banned. We didn't drink beer until 1999, I think it was banned.
I was reading about that, and Magnus and I were talking about that as well. And it's a study on how policy and commerce make very strange bedfellows.
It is, and people were just making their own alcohol, so they were not drinking something safe and only strong things, really. So you can just imagine how the party was, a lot of that. And we do have 50 names over how drunk you are in Icelandic. 50 names.
Wow.
Words for how drunk you are.
Wow. Wait, I know that in Finland they have a word for getting drunk in your underwear.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't remember what it is.
It's a lot about the horse in Iceland. So if you're, that drunk or, you could, I don't remember, I read this the other day. So if you, could stay on the horse or you were hanging on the horse or, depends, and I was quite baffled because we do have 50 words for wind and weather, but we do it too about how drunk you are. So I don't know why.
Well, I mean, you think about it too. It's like introducing cannabis into society from a harm reduction standpoint. It's like, I think it's, it's not just a human thing. All living creatures, at least mammals, seem to want to feel good and go towards substances that create some sort of happiness, joy, euphoria, whatever it is.
Blissfulness.
And
it's the blissfulness molecule. The cannabis is called the blissfulness molecule, really. And in Hebrew, if you go back.
Oh, yeah. Wait, our bodies create anandamide. Yeah. And that's, if we have children and we breastfeed, we pass it on to our children. And it's how do we create policy in places so that we can have safe access to wellness and joy?
Well, we need to make people understand life is not just about money and getting rich. It is about how we can make things functional, healthy. Healthy means access to nature. And it doesn't just with cannabis, it's psychedelics, with the homeopaths or whatever it is. We will not get better except with access to nature. That's my view.
Yeah.
And we have all these big goals of healthier nation, less fat people or whatever it is, obese or less drinking, or all these great goals of carbon neutral and all that. And there's nothing behind it, really. Yeah. You can't make all these big national goals and then it is really just sometimes a black market for the rich people to play with their monies, I feel like. And I think we need just to wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up, people.
Yeah. Well, and I was earlier today, I did a talk, and when I was doing research on Iceland and just seeing how innovative you are as a country, and really as far as like existing in an environmentally friendly way with your geothermal energy and things like that, it just makes sense that you should be leaders in this.
Definitely, and people look at Iceland, very clean country, very clean water, all our energy, and it's a forceful country. It's a quite, non-polluted yet, not yet. But if we keep on doing like we're doing, we're not going to be that perfect, nice, beautiful country, So we really need to start thinking things over. But we are very fast in evolution. We lived in what do you call it, like huts of, in the ground in 1920s. Like the first street came 1910 or something, and the first cars, we were on horses until 1940 or something, going between places. So it's because of a war that evolution came to Iceland. So because we were between America and Europe. So, the people get bases, USA had bases here, and that's when really things started to change. But we grabbed it and we took everything people really did in maybe 300 years, 200, 300 years. We did that in 50, 60 years. But I think what problems is that the Icelanders, it's very expensive, harsh weather, it's harsh country to live in a way. So we are workaholics. We are workaholics, and we have a little bit, so everybody spends heaps of their money into housing because we spend a lot of time inside, not as much as most people outside because of the weather and short summers. But I think we lost the what you would say, like the wallet of life a little bit, because everything is about who has the biggest car, biggest house, or the nicest thing or something. And that's not what makes us happy, and we know that. So I think we need to slow down and really just start to look a little bit inside and get more spiritual. That's my dream, at least. And we have this spiritual or psychedelic wave in Iceland, so people are waking up after especially COVID and everything. People are looking for other solutions. People you would not expect be looking for other solutions are there looking for it. And we just have this new market of people who realize, maybe I can do it myself, make myself well. I can do a lot of things myself. And so we have a growing wellness, black market of wellness, which I think is crazy.
Yeah, that is, because it should be something encouraged and out in the open. And looking at that, where do you think you'll be in the next 5 years with policy with cannabis?
Okay.
And I know it's hard to tell because politics are politics.
Especially, I was getting really on with all these things last year until our government broke down on our conference last year. Still we had people from the parliament, assistants of the prime minister, of the ministers in Iceland were at the conference getting educated. Now they do not have. They have a new government, and we had a lot of dialogue with them before the conference, and none of them did show up. So I have to say I'm quite disappointed with them. We've been doing this openly for 6 years now. We have grown over 200 hectares for trial, just and fun, really. We have built our first hemp house. We've done concrete courses. We've done so many things, and there's so much interest from the people and the farmers and people. And it seems to be, in a small country, you would think the people in parliament would have time to talk to the people who really, are, what do you say, like... sorry, my words are out now. So we voted for them. Yeah.
Your constituents.
Yeah. And that they would at least come and get educated so they can make some decision. And for me, this is a little bit, because harm reduction is a big, big thing for me. And if people haven't really opened their eyes and realized cannabis is a harm reduction in both pharmaceutical and black market. Guys, wake up. If we would not have that plan, we had so much more people dying.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Every time in Iceland, we don't have, because we have not a stable market in cannabis, so there comes days and months that we do not have product on the market. We can see high rise of young people overdosing and dying. It's just very simple. And I will never go off that because I've seen it happening. And our market is always getting more unstable, more gangs, more foreigners, more kind of people that was not in the market. It was quite safe haven. Mm-hmm. It was just chilled hippies in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People who really just love the plant and the mission of the plant. So yeah, I would have expected them to come and get educated with the situation we are fighting today. But yeah, they seem to always be too busy. It's yeah.
You're not alone in that.
No, I know that. I know.
It's one of those things where, whether you're here or you're in California, politicians have lost touch with their constituents.
Yeah.
And so I think unfortunately, the onus is on us to push even harder than before to get them to understand that we contribute to society.
Yeah.
And we use cannabis and we vote.
Yeah. And we do. And, and we have high use of cannabis in Iceland. That's the truth. It's always been. And it's just going up. It's just going up.
Well, you've got to, I imagine, because I know like in Finland, especially with like the weather and everything.
Exactly.
The use of alcohol is high.
We have a massive problem of alcohol, but we do accept it greatly. So, sorry guys, it's okay to be the drunk guy who beat up somebody or just light on the street or whatever he did stupid or anything, and then you just say, oh yeah, I just had a drink. And that's fine. So, the mentality, you can do whatever because you were drunk and stupid, but if anybody else on something else would do something like that, he would be demonized.
Right. Well, and so
it's
it is. And we've actually been talking about this lately. It's been coming up a lot. The saying of, 5 guys who are drunk will get in a fight.
Definitely.
5 guys who are high will start a band.
Oh, definitely. Or they would just, couldn't bother. They would go and have something to eat.
Have some cookies.
They would just, would not have that in them.
Yeah.
It's very simple. And we've seen it with the numbers, that the numbers in every state or country that has been legalized, we see less violence in the homes. That's something big, guys.
Yeah.
Less violence in the home, less drinking, less people losing their license, driving drunk. There's a lot of things, and less death of overdosing. So I think, just if we are really reasonable people, we should be looking at the numbers and what it has done. And we have it.
Yeah, and if the politicians care about the people as much as they say they do, they should be taking notice of this too.
Yeah, and another thing is that we have a very broken health system right now. It's been going down, down, down for years. Terrible. It's hard to get to a doctor. Most people don't even have a doctor to go to. So you're on a waiting list maybe for 3 months. You don't have varieties in treatment. So it's always just that treatment or no other treatment. So there's nothing to choose from. And there's been a waiting list for 6 to 2 months for people to go to radiation today in middle of a cancer treatment.
Wow.
So why won't you open up your eyes for other options so you can, take that overload of the system and spread it? Because there is other options. And it would be cost less for the state. We know that. Mm-hmm. For our government, for the healthcare, everybody, if we would spread a little bit, and there's not one way. And, all the people that come to me, they're either pharmaceutical resisted, so that nothing is working, or they are the people who fall in between the cracks, and nobody is really taking care or listening to them.
Yeah. And
I feel like sometimes the only thing I needed to do was just listen and give them time, and they feel better. It's sometimes just lack of nobody caring that you're going through that shit, having health breaking down, and nobody cares, especially for the young people when you're sick and they don't want to put money into getting you better, get you back to work and be a part of the society. So we are really building up people, so it's like with disability. Mm-hmm. And you get stuck there forever when you get on it, because there's nothing that grabs you when you're on a disability. There's no way to turn it around. There is nothing really that says, hey, try to go to work, try to do this, or some kind of rehabilitation or something. There's nothing. You're just a number who get a little bit of money every month, and nobody cares about you. Mm-hmm. And we have a very high number, especially women, on that disability. Yeah.
That's why I think across the world, we need to have a shift in leadership.
Oh, definitely, most definitely. And, we need to trust the people in the countries. Trust your people. Trust your people to take that decision. Most people are not playing with their health or with, whatever they're doing. We are very educated. We have high use of internet, ChatGPT, all that. We can make some decision ourselves, and we can do the research. And if I tell my doctor, hey, dude, I did that, and it makes me feel so good. I'm taking down I'm decreasing my pharmaceutical. I'm more functional. I've been walking, I'm doing whatever it is. You should be happy for me, and you should be interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're like, oh, no, it can't be cannabis. No, it can't be. No, it's CBD. No. It must be a flake.
Yeah.
Or fluke.
Yeah.
You're just like, well, I haven't had seizures like for 10 years, but I used to have like hundreds of times, It's just like, so what happened to the scientist? I thought scientists should have like a really like sightseeing of like all around what's happening, but they are so narrow.
We have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But I believe that what you're doing here with this conference is such a catalyst for that work. I mean, the people who are here today to speak and to talk to one another, it's amazing.
We are quite lucky with our speakers this year. So it's quite a list, I have to say. So I'm quite starstruck. I feel like I'm meeting a rock star, every minute here. And yeah, I have to say, I've been very privileged with the people who are willing to come over and help us. And I have to say, I'm just so grateful for this community. And I think this is the only thing, at least I can do right now, is just keep on going, try to educate, try to reach maybe. But in a way, me and Steina, we were talking about this last night. So we were like, okay, disappointed over who didn't come or who didn't show up or whatever. But in the end, we realized we were in the room with the coolest people in the world, the people that we love to hang with and would love to have our friends for the future. So, and how vibrant the air was yesterday. Everybody was just so enjoying it, and everybody was smiling, interacted with the conference. So we felt just really blessed. And this is just what we are going to be focused on from now on. It's just the community that we are building together with you guys.
You're building something beautiful. And as frustrating as it is now, I think that this is going to create momentum for change.
Yeah, I hope so, definitely.
I believe that.
Oh, thank you. I really would love to see a little bit change, Definitely one step at a time, but something.
On that note, what are you excited and hopeful about?
Definitely just the wave that is going on. I can feel a new energy enter the world, We have a lot of new people waking up, and we are, getting together. We're trying to make things happen. And I do believe we will bring something better to the world.
I agree. For people who want to learn more about the association, the conference, and follow you, how do they do that?
So we have Facebook page, Hemp félagið, so that's Hemp for the future. It's Hemp Association in Icelandic. And we have Hemp fyrir framtíðina, but I can give you just that in English. So we have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have hempforfuture.is, which is our page for the conference. We lost our Hemp Associated page, so we're building a new one. Somebody took it down, and we are working, so you can go into that hopefully in 2 months or so.
Awesome. And for those of you listening, look on our social media pages. We will have all of this tagged as well, because I know sometimes with the difference in the characters, it can be hard to find something in Icelandic, but you should do it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend. It's been an honor and a pleasure to spend time with you.
I'm just so privileged to have you over, guys. Just makes my day. Really, you are amazing, both of you.
Thank you. And we're back. We're at the Hemp for the Future conference in Reykjavík, and I have Heidi Whitman with me. She is a UK-based global strategist and chairwoman of the Empower Her Cannabis Society, known for driving ethical growth and innovation across the international cannabis industry through strategic leadership and ecosystem development. Heidi, welcome.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm so happy to be here with you in Iceland.
Me too. And it's October and it's both of our birthdays.
And we're the same age. It's really exciting.
It's so exciting. Well, we've already had a bunch of wonderful stuff and we've got more to come. Mm-hmm. You and I did a panel with a bunch of our colleagues yesterday. Yes. And I have to say that the female focus at this conference is awesome. I mean, there's guys here too, mm-hmm. a lot of great guys, mm-hmm. but it also really illustrates the fact of how allyship across the board makes for not only a better community, but a better industry.
Absolutely. And the presence is so impressive considering 3 years ago, we had manels. We didn't really have panels.
Yeah.
And we had the token women's panels at certain events. And now we are literally leading so much of the charge forward internationally. This is my 4th event in 4 weeks in 4 countries. And I can say that the pattern of presence has not, it just keeps superseding itself. And today, being in Iceland with an all-female run government, with female organizers and curators, and having all of us women there and talking about female health issues pretty much across every single discussion point regarding female health came up. And, you know, I would say 80% of the discussions since we've been here, mm-hmm. and we're not done yet. So I think this is just a sign of the times. We are finally getting our voices heard.
Yeah. And we're addressing big topics.
Yes.
And we're teaching soft skills.
Exactly. That is a very good way to put it. And I think the men of quality are for equality. And I think with that being said, that there is a true presence of supportive structures around us now. And we're not falling onto the wayside. We're actually being honed in as the important people that should be included, because diversity and perspective is the only way forward.
Absolutely. I also think that, we really remind people that there's a great swath of our world, our community, that is not being served.
No, absolutely. And I was going to bring up the Empower Her Cannabis Society.
Please.
So the group was co-founded by myself and a woman named Rebecca Allen Tapbeck 2 years ago this month. And we are now, as of, I think this morning, 860 women strong on a WhatsApp chat, leading into an association that we have also formed for this group to then include membership models. But we've been gathering the steam of gathering these women together across 33 countries. And it is so evident because wherever we go for any type of industry specific reason, or even on the side, the women find each other. I need to create a label or something, a flag, I don't know, something to put on us so we can find each other. Because when you're in a large show like Cannabis or ICBC, chances are the women are already in the group. But here we are in Iceland and they are just coming up. And now these women that we've been so blessed to be able to be with, I mean, this is so special because they are new to cannabis, mm-hmm. they're curious, and they're brave enough to come and listen. They're our next group of people that are going to come within our community. And this global community is now touching so many points of the earth. And together we're banding and standing and rising.
That's exciting.
It's so cool. And it's so supportive because no one feels alone anymore, because it is a male-dominated industry like tech, like pharma. But we are changing those norms. Those are the societal and cultural historical norms from yesteryear. And now we're making it different, where we are not forcing the issue, but presenting it on a platter to showcase that we add value to every step of the chain in the supply and distribution of medicine.
Do you feel like the community has helped women feel more confident in stepping forward, not only at conferences and claiming their space, but also claiming their space in the boardrooms and in leadership?
Absolutely, because I don't think we can be ignored anymore. I think when you have so much presence and showing the value of women, and it's statistically found, I wish I had all the numbers in front of me, but for instance, capital. Okay, so gaining capital was really difficult for a female-run company. Invest in Women Task Force came into play recently with a £250 million fund that they are looking to distribute in the UK for for female-run businesses. That I would never have heard of before, because when I was trying to raise capital for my little CBD brand back in the day, and I went to my very first financial gathering of sorts to understand what this cannabis was all about in 2018 when the laws changed in the UK, it was all men and me. I was the only woman in a poncho in the back looking for my people. And I didn't see them. I saw a sea of suits. I saw people from the financial world looking to get on this green rush that they felt was a quick ROI, but the joke was on them because that is not the case in cannabis.
Isn't that the truth?
But I also was completely ignored. My opinions, my values, my thoughts were just ignored. And I was with a group that happened to be all men that I was working for at the time, or working alongside to get my company acquired. And now I'm saying that the stats, I think from Forbes, I mentioned that for every dollar provided to a woman's investment or her capital that she has raised, 70% has an ROI versus 30% or 35% from a male-run company. So there is an opportunity for investors to have more confidence with female leadership, specifically because the statistics to date have shown that. Now the numbers might be askew because most of the companies have been owned by men, but you see more women rising. You see the likes of Warner Brands. You see the likes of Leah Heiss in the States. She's had 4 exits. There are some women that have really rocked the very early stages of cannabis. And now there are so many more. So they're stepping in. They're supported by our crazy global group. And if they're not, we hope that they find someone that they can lean on. And then they're shining. And the fear of speaking up and the fear of talking and giving your opinions can't be discarded, because without them, if a company is not diversified, it looks like they're failing, because we've made a point of bringing this up over and over for the past 2 years in as many panels as we can.
That's awesome. Do you think that the narrative has changed around some of this? Because what I've looked at is female founders pitching are giving a lot of information. It's like we almost feel like we have to make excuses for why we should be allowed in the space and almost over communicate. Whereas like I had Renee Gagnon on the show not too long ago, and she was talking about the fact that men typically invest in men because they're like, oh, it's not about it. Even though they'll talk ROI all day, it's more about, does it sound cool? Will it make me look cool? Mm-hmm. Does it seem cutting edge? And, we come up and we're like, facts, facts, facts. And they're like, yeah, I'm snoring. It's not exciting, but it's actually, like you said, there's more return on what we're doing because we're more thoughtful. We're not pitching to like make money and then exit and like, oh, crash and burn, pick it up again. Let's do it over. It's like, it's very personal for us.
And I think the governance that we hold court for when it comes to the corporation, we have to act like businesses. And I think we never got a playbook. Cannabis just became legal and everyone went running and formed companies really quick. Mm-hmm. I worked for a couple companies that didn't even have CFOs, but investment came in. And so when the investment came in, the misallocation was terrible because no one knew what they were doing, or immature leadership, et cetera. So I think one of the things that women do is they hold standards, procedures, SOPs as paramount foundational points. They bring in allies for financial services. They bring in allies for media, and they bring in allies for legal, so that those alliances that they have on the ancillary side of their C-suite, for instance, if they can't afford someone right away, those are going to be supportive in building that foundation, because we think things through in process. And not to say men don't, but in the cannabis space, it has been clearly evident that the crash and burn was more times than not. And the false valuations and the misallocation of funds, I've witnessed it. It's disgusting, and it burned us. So we need to regroup and formalize, but with a diversification on your board and your capital, the investors will have more confidence in providing capital. The reporting is going to be better if we're taking the lead in many forms, and working alongside our male counterparts to make sure that these procedures stay in place. I do not think I work in a corporate world, but we have to act corporate in order to be taken seriously, because the data that we then provide from our companies will help regulators realize, wait, they really are a legitimate company. Oh, there are some public. We look at, I use Ananda Pharma, for example. They're a publicly listed company on the Aquis Exchange doing drug development. A woman is running it and driving it forward, and she's focusing on female health. That's actually perking the ears of a lot of investors. It's a global opportunity, and that to them is safe. And it's actually, she's showing an example for the rest of us by leading in this way and gaining the confidence of investors and the capital advisement firms that are clawing to become part of her group. There's a reason for that, because she's running this tight ship, and this ship is sailing straight up the trajectory, just like GW did, but she's doing it for female health, focused on endometriosis. And to me, that just really shines the turn that we needed to take to get into this pivot of formalization of our industry.
Yeah, and that's exciting because female health is a conversation. We talk amongst ourselves around it, but the support that we've gotten in general has been pretty dismal.
It's been terrible. I mean, the statistics on the pharma side and the clinical research side, why should we adopt those in our cannabis world? Because as Megan just said, we should treat this not as a pharmaceutical, but as a medicine. This is a medicine. Do we need to fall into the pharmaceutical place? Yeah, we do. You know, we need to comply with what the law is saying, the regulations today. But once we prove what we are trying to do, I think that there will be a lot of flexibility and amenability to where we can grow the opportunity. And even when, Megan touched on in her talk earlier today, Epidiolex is, for different types of forms of epilepsy. Mm-hmm. But it's a $1 billion blockbuster drug, I believe, this year, but $400 million is on orphan indications where Epidiolex is treating. So that means that there are doctors out there prescribing it off-label for other indications. That's just a sign also that there is some openness to, well, if this is working there, maybe we can stop this here, and they're starting to think about it. But we have to do, more and more work to, I might have gone off topic a little bit, but we have to do more and more work to bring these solutions to the table in the way that the law is guiding us so that we can start branching out as an industry and not taking on all of the late diagnosis, no diagnosis, disbelief, cancers growing where people aren't realizing cancers are growing, and start clinical research on females to accompany the male research so that the products that we're developing in our new, nascent, perfectly lined up to be regulated industry for everybody, with the points of reference being gender specific at times. So I think, when trailblazers go out and do things and we get the stats of what's being prescribed now, there's no reason why we can't compile that together and create a more appropriate healthcare system that actually services the people and all demographics alike.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know if I answered your question, but
we went
around it, but I think it still applies.
It still applies. Okay. It's so relevant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I think that women supporting women and that creating leadership in the industry is the greatest service that we can do.
Yeah. And I think it's coming to a head because there's no fear in talking up anymore. We saw it today. I saw it all month. I've seen it all year, where the women are talking about menopause and PMDD and all these other issues very openly. And I live in a conservative country. UK is very conservative. I started mumbling about CBD in a yoga class, and all of a sudden all these women were like, talk to that CBD lady over there. When people were asking, because I'm with a bunch of menopausal women that probably have an aging parent. Yeah. That's a compounded situation. I lived that life. And I'm like, you all need me. You don't know that yet. Yeah. And then we ended up having, I think it was last year, actually, probably 18 months ago, a group of women in my local village that got together at our local pub. We served them wine. And I brought in doctors from all over the world to talk to them about it, just open discussions and show them what medical cannabis can do. And it was eye-opening. And then the murmurs didn't have to be whispers, and people were just outwardly talking about it in the locker room.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, because we, as women, some of us are really comfortable talking about our bodies, and some of us are not so much. And that's really about society. Like, I didn't get comfortable talking about my body until I had two friends who were midwives. Mm-hmm. And they were like, no, come on, let's do this. Like, it's not a big deal. It's just a body. But like, my podcast, Puff Puff Press, Britt Smith is my co-host on that. And she's British. And I was like, let's talk about vaginal suppositories. And she's like, oh God.
Yeah. The awkward squirm. Cue the awkward squirm.
So I lovingly teased her about it. But it's like, if I feel like if we didn't have so much stigma about women's bodies, we wouldn't feel so, and I can't blame her. Like, it's a weird conversation when we're not used to having that all the time.
No, and I think it's culturally different. You go into Berlin, they'll talk about sex all day long. They just had the huge Venus show, it was all about porn, sex, Germans, positivity, and everything else.
Exactly.
But then you come into England, and it's the stiff upper lip society, although the younger generations are definitely more open to discussions and voicing their opinions on gender, identity, sex. Like, they're talking about it more, which is great, because I look at my stepchildren who are in their teens. They don't think it's weird to talk about anything. Like, their friends are trans, their friends are this. They don't look at it any differently, because that's the world they grew up in. And they grew up with a stepmom who's been in the cannabis space. They think it's medicine and it stinks, and don't do it in the house when we're there because they don't like the smell. But I don't think they would ever go do it on their own because that's just the way they are. So, I think normalization versus using the stigmatized word, which is something Jamie Pearson said years ago to me. She's like, we have to stop saying stigma, just normalize it.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to do so, there's many facets. We have to find modes of delivery into our bodies that aren't so obvious, with flower being the only option. We need to showcase that we're leading with studies, which is happening right now and before our eyes. History is being made.
Yeah.
We have to lead with voice. And all of this is normalizing the topics. Look at the Icelandic people. They didn't even hear anything. And then we put Melanie in front of them and they heard everything. And now they're all still here. We didn't lose anybody.
No.
From the start of this conference till today. And they're all like, they're taking notes. They're videoing, they're clipping, they're posting. And that's how the word gets out. And I think that normalization is going to be a big help for us.
It is. I mean, building that kind of enthusiasm, it just creates storytelling of its own. And we can reach out as media, as lecturers, in so many different ways. But I think the richest story is when people get something out of it and they take it back to other people.
100%.
And there's that sharing, the peer-to-peer sharing.
Yeah. And I just thought of something, I might have lost it, but the storytelling part is, it's just showcasing the reality of it. And I think reality isn't talked about in pharma. No one's like, oh, I took my Lexapro and I feel great today. Like, you don't hear people talking like that. But if you hear a menopausal woman be like, I slept last night because I took medical cannabis, everyone's going to know. That's something you broadcast. You don't broadcast that you're, what's it called? Sertraline or whatever they give in the US, or the UK, which is similar to Wellbutrin. And people falling asleep like in taxi, they can't keep their heads up. You don't broadcast. I had trouble staying awake at work today because I took my antidepressant drugs. No one talks about it, but you'll hear people brag about their experiences with plants. Mm-hmm. And I think that comfort level is coming from all the foundational work we're doing now, even though we're many years in the UK with legal, even more so, I think in Portugal it's 25 years. There's all different kinds of milestones that these countries have, but we're a very non-harmonized place over here. It's not like the States, but States are too. They've got state to state rules.
Oh, there are very different conversations in the Midwest than there are in California.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not dissimilar to comparing the UK to Germany, because California, it's like, let it all hang out. And the Midwest is like,
oh, absolutely not.
No.
Yeah. I'm going to retract that statement. Yeah, I think, I do think that, but I think the communities that are within these communities are global because we're online.
Right.
And I think when we come together, and there's no better vibe than seeing the women just buzz at the level of, the energy when we all get together, because we all work mostly from home. We're all behind a laptop in our pajamas looking professional from the top up,
I feel that. I've been there.
Yeah. We all work really hard, but in between we're doing laundry, doing the dishes, letting out the dog, walking the dog, going to the gym, doing everything at the same time. But when we all come together and our undivided attention is on the cause, I feel like we rise a level. We're leveling up every single time. And even being here today, this is a very unique place. I mean, Iceland is super special. I had no idea what I was walking into. I met Tota in Berlin, and she's like at 2 a.m. She's like, you're coming to Iceland. I'm like, definitely I am. Whatever you need, I'll bring all the women. I'll do whatever I can. I'll bring intelligence and myself, and we will rock it for you. And we will be a foundation that you can fall back on. And it worked.
Yeah.
And we're here. And this is a place that when it's just very not legal.
Yeah.
Like extremely not legal. But yet I've met some amazing CBD farmers here. One gentleman told me he lives and grows in a village with 100 inhabitants, 538 kilometers from wherever we are right now. So that seems pretty far and remote. But they're doing it because he said it's medicine. And I think a lot of women healers are looking for sources here. And we met a lot of them this week. And I'm just so happy that our buzz and our energy, when we get together and it creates this incredible vortex of awesomeness, these people are falling in and they're leaning on us. It's really nice.
You're building momentum, and I'm
we totally need a voice like yours. You're doing it. I told you the first time I saw your little post on LinkedIn when you began, I was like, who is this woman? Because it looked friendly and approachable. We're approachable.
We are.
A bunch of men in suits sitting in a corner are not approachable. But we're naturally caretaking. and not to say men aren't. I know a lot of amazing male caretakers.
Oh, absolutely.
But we are naturally in this industry, we're no longer baby's not in the corner. Don't know how many people will recognize that statement. Maybe it's because it's our birthday month, but baby's not in the corner.
Baby's not in the corner.
Baby's on the stage
Yeah.
and she's screaming and she's loud and she's factual and she's intelligent and she's accredited. And I think it's an experiential and academic collide of intelligence, and it's really resonating.
In a format that's friendly for people. What are you excited about and hopeful about in the future?
I'm excited to have choices. And I said this on my speech too, and it came naturally. I didn't even think about it, but having a choice to treat myself, to treat my loved ones, to treat my animals, which is my other passion, which anyone who knows me knows that. I need a plant-based option. I'm a plant-based eater. I've been this way before it was cool. I saw a veal house when I was 10 years old riding my horse, and I was like, oh, heck no, I'm never eating a baby anything. Or I realized where lamb chops came from. Everything sort of came together. I remember I was really little on my pony bopping around the countryside and saw it. And I thought, I didn't have much of a choice. I made a choice, and it was a difficult one in the 80s to be like, I'm not eating meat anymore to a poor family that's eating on welfare food. But I did it. And I don't think there's a reason why we can't choose what we put in our body for medicine as much as we put in our body for food. So I want to see choices for myself, for my mom. I'm treating some of my family members. I'm illegally treating my animals right now. But are they alive and kicking ass? Yep. And I, like you, had something growing in me that was not so nice and was quite sinister. And I was misdiagnosed for 8 years, and I treated myself, mitigated it, and came out okay. And I think that if we don't have choices and we're going to lean onto a market that is thriving in the legacy world, I'm fine with them. They can do what they want, but we need a safe access plan for everybody. So I hope all our work that we're doing now, in conjunction with the studies that are being conducted for female health, will spur a movement. And I think we're in the movement.
I think we are.
I think we're moving and grooving. But I think the escalation is just about to come, because I can feel the energy of these passionate humans finding one another. And there's everything's possible.
Yeah.
We're literally unstoppable force. And that goes for the entire industry as a whole.
Yeah.
The Good People Network, we're thriving.
I'm so excited about that too. For people who want to follow you on social media or engage in Empower Her, how do they do that?
So we have a website, empowerhersociety.world. And our membership program will be launching soon. Just working out the bank details, which everyone knows in cannabis is not so fun. Try to get PayPal. And personally, I could be found on Heidi-Whitman.com. All my details are on that website. I don't service it that often, but it's up there. I'm a busy woman. But take a peek and you can find me there. You can find me on LinkedIn. And on Instagram, it's Heidi_Whitman_business_.
Thank you so much, Heidi.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to more great conversations.
I can't wait. Let's go celebrate your birthday.
Let's do it.
Are you looking for a lasting, meaningful way to connect with your audience and highlight your brand? Well, listen up, because Planted with Sara Payan is taking on new sponsors. Here's a powerful stat. 20% of listeners are more likely to support brands they hear about on a trusted podcast. And 60% actually look up that product after hearing about it. That's the power of podcasting. Planted with Sara Payan has a unique draw. With remarkable guests, we attract and engage audience that spans all sides of the cannabis spectrum. Picture your message reaching these listeners time and again. Podcast ads are evergreen, meaning your brand stays relevant as new audiences discover and binge past episodes. It's a long-term investment that keeps on giving. If you're looking for a targeted, passionate audience with lasting impact, the right listeners are here waiting to meet your brand. Visit plantedwithsara.com to get a copy of our sponsorship deck today.
And we're back. We're at Hemp for the Future conference in Reykjavík. It is a beautiful day, and I have Dr. Kelly Seaman with me. She is a plant scientist and patient advocate and entrepreneur with over 20 years in cannabis and hydroponics, known for combining scientific innovation with advocacy for women's health and cannabis education. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. It was such a pleasure.
Oh my God, we've been having so much fun.
Oh, I can't even start. Last night, wow, just wow. It was like, I think it was the energy of all the women coming together and all of us and us all feeding off of one another, what happened there.
Yeah.
Of just going, I didn't know what we were going into, if I'm honest. I was, what we were actually going to enter into, and it just got better and better and better. You know, going into the volcanic rock and all of the hot springs, and the water it was just like getting in a giant bath. It was...
Wasn't it? For our listeners, we went to Sky Lagoon last night and we got to see the Northern Lights. I mean, it couldn't have been planned better.
Oh, it was like they turned a switch on at the point. It was like me and Jeff had just spoke to the lifeguard that was wandering around in the pool with all his clothes on. And just called him over. Excuse me, officer. What time do you shoot? And he said 40 minutes. And we looked around, we're never going to see the Northern Lights. And then they just appeared. It was like he went in the back and flicked a switch and turned them on for us to perform. And it was immense. And then they started dancing and it was just, they didn't stop. And then there was the moon and we've not even gone into the 7 steps yet that we had to go through.
Right?
Oh, just the sweat, the sauna. Did you think the window was... I didn't think the window was actually there.
I know. That is the cleanest window I've ever seen.
I was scared I could have walked into it, if I'm honest. That'd have been my usual trick. And then it was into the next... And the cold mist that walked into... Did you find any of the hot spots on the floor?
No, I didn't hear about those until after we went through. You said that you felt those. I was just... The cold mist, I was just like... First, it was cold, but it was also the water was so soft.
Yeah.
It was just it was invigorating, but gentle.
Yes. It was just what you needed after coming out of the sauna that apparently was 88 degrees Celsius, which I think he meant Fahrenheit. It definitely wasn't 88 degrees Celsius in there. All the pores had opened, all the tingling all over, the lips, ears and everything. To walk into that and then all the pores close was just, it was beautiful. It was so intense as well. I just loved every moment of it.
It was a wonderful cap to the day because earlier that day we did a panel.
Yes.
And we were talking about women equality in the industry, which was wonderful. I mean, it doesn't get much better than sitting with 4 of my favorite women and talking about that.
It felt the energy on this stage just felt we'd become one. Mm-hmm. I felt we just were bouncing off of one another and just really, I always feel empowered when I'm around all of the women here, particularly yourself and Heidi. It just empowers me so much. And my husband notices this when I get home. I'm going to hustle. I'm going to do this. I can do this. And he's like, yeah, you've been around the empower women, haven't you?
Yeah.
Just calm down a little bit. Just take a deep breath. We're going to do this. We know you can.
Well, you know what else? I hope that it empowers the men in the room to feel safe to be their authentic selves.
Yes. And it's something we did bring up as well in it, that we wanted to make sure that we're thankful for those men.
Yeah.
And thankful for the support that they bring and the celebrating the differences. I know we talk about equality, but I don't think we are equal to men. I think we've got differences that we should celebrate, and that when we do come together as a unit, that the male have got their side, we have our femininity. You make such the ideal perfect match that is so much more powerful than either side. Yeah. And I just want to celebrate that more and celebrate our differences, as opposed to, say, having this kind of mediocrity where we're, all the same, we can all do it. No, we're all good at one thing. Let's celebrate what we're good at, as opposed to being sort of all right at everything.
Yeah. I like that, highlighting strengths and contributions and creating that safe space.
Yes, yeah. And it's knowing what you don't know as well, admitting that you're not an expert in this area, and then finding the right person who can help you with that. That's something I had to learn quite a lot when I became a director 13 years ago, and it wasn't all planned. It was all kind of happened accidentally. The company I was working for that had sponsored my PhD went into administration. And I'm in the middle of doing a PhD, and it was, well, should we start a business making fertilizers? I went, okay, yeah, I know about science, I know about manufacturing, I know how to set SOPs up and processes, I can do that. And yeah, I had to learn a lot of skills that I didn't have at all, of being a director and what it actually means, that you're not actually supposed to do the work. You need to know how to do the work, but you need to learn how to delegate and then find the people who know how to do that work that you need them to do, or be experts in that area, and let go of that and allow them to, which quite often is quite hard when you're the person who's been doing it all.
Right. But that's part of the aptitude of leadership.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. Steep learning curve. You can't be taught that. That's lived experience, I think. Definitely.
It is. But I think that goes with just like, and I'm going to go into my org psych nerdiness, that, leadership positions so often are given as rewards rather than skill sets and aptitudes. And I think that's part of the major disconnect, not only in cannabis, but just throughout the institutionalization of any organization.
Couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I was a Sea Cadet, and it was the leadership roles. You worked your way up the ranks. So it was a reward, not because you were capable. And that, I think, is missed a lot. And that was another good point we brought up in that the actual panel about tokenism. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be put into a role because, oh, you're female, you've got a disability, and yes, that makes our stats look really, really good. I want to be in that position because my skill set is of a high enough standard to do that, and they believe that I can do the job, not just because I've got a pair of breasts.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you are mentoring other people, it's so essential to have that too.
Totally. I mean, I've tried to mentor other people, and I don't know how successful I've been in the past, because sometimes you need to learn yourself, and I'm still myself looking for a mentor. I'm still looking for someone to teach me more, but I suppose there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I don't think that we constantly are learning. I think that's one of the beautiful things about what we do. I mean, I think that's through life in general, but especially in cannabis, it's almost magnified about the fact of we're constantly learning and what we don't know.
Yeah.
And isn't that stimulating?
Yes. Oh, and every day is a school day.
Yeah.
Definitely every day is a school day at the moment. And the way the industry's going, and coming to Iceland and finding out how things are here as well. Wow. It actually excites me, Iceland, where they're at, because people are really enthusiastic about learning. Really, they want the knowledge. There doesn't seem to be arrogance at the moment. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've experienced that.
I haven't. Yeah, no, not at all.
There's definitely a thirst for the knowledge, and how can we do this? How can we make this better? How can we learn from what's happening in both our countries, mm-hmm. and how, the models that we've set up and where things have come from as mm-hmm. well. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it excites me here. Czech Republic's another good one to take a look at as well, of where they're at. I'd be looking towards there. I know the Swiss model's coming. I've not been to Switzerland yet, but Czech Republic's the next one to look at. I would be checking that one out.
That's exciting. Yeah, I mean, when we look at policies in other countries and what should and shouldn't be happening, one of the things, like in the States, from state to state, we're like a bunch of little countries that hang out together. And, some states allow cultivation, some don't. And I think that it's really important that we allow for home cultivation. And in our country, the MSOs are very against it. And I'm always like, listen, I can grow tomatoes. It doesn't mean I am. When I'm gifted homegrown tomatoes, I get very excited, but I still buy mine at the store. What are your thoughts around the cultivation, grow your own movement, especially where you are in the UK?
I am so for it. It's unbelievable. It's not even on the table in the UK at the moment. It's not even entertained. And as you said, there's nothing tastes better than something you've produced yourself, be that tomatoes, basil, cucumbers, apples. If you've grown it and you've spent that time really cultivating it and, nurturing it and treating it for pests, when you taste that, it tastes so much better than anything else. The mental health benefits with it as well is just it's so intoxicating. I want to see it moving forwards more in the UK. I want us to look at the models such as Germany and Malta and where they're at as well. They're allowing a small number of plants. What we should be looking at is not the number of plants. We should be looking at the amount of lights. So if somebody's going outdoors, okay, we do need to look at the number of plants and maybe the area you're allowed to actually grow in, because energy in equals energy out. You neither can create energy or destroy it. So say you've got 2 600-watt lights, you've only got the potential to produce so much flower based on 1200 watts of light. So that's, I feel it should be based on, as opposed to the number of plants, because sometimes you'll get a cultivar that doesn't produce very much. You may have an autoflower that at the most will produce 25 grams at a push. And then you've got others that one plant will quite happily produce 40 ounces. So we need to be dependent on what the patient needs as well. So some of those autoflowers are a lot more balanced in what they've got. So they're a lot more heading towards a medicinal wellness side product as opposed to the very high THCs that we're seeing coming through. So there's a lot to kind of look at there. But because I come from the legacy side of things, I worked in the hydroponic shops for many years, for 10 years, and then moved into the manufacturing side of things. I've seen the change happen from the 90s, coming through the noughties to the teenies to now we're into the 20s, and how things have progressed. I mean, it used to be soap bar that used to be around back in the 90s, and the people didn't grow weed at all. My dad was a bit of an anomaly, and it was this kind of secret thing. But I don't know if you've come across a film by Guy Ritchie called Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yes.
Oh, well, when that came out, it was like, wow, they've been watching us. This is a film about. Did
you give Guy a call?
The Gentleman got worse when I watched that. It's like he's been following me round. All of those characters I know in the UK cannabis industry, all of them have gone, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so. He has got that down to a T of he clearly knows people in the industry. He's clearly been around it. He clearly, and he hit the characters bang on. Yeah, bang on.
So how do those characters in the legacy industry translate to what we're seeing now?
So obviously a lot of them don't have business acumens. They don't understand about running a business. They don't understand what needs to go into that, the responsibilities that come with that. You become a business owner, or you're producing something that you're supplying to someone else, you are responsible for that product. And that needs to be taken into consideration. And I feel that the legacy market really there needs to be room for them. There is a lot of amazing skills in there, but they also need to meet in the middle from the professional manufacturing side as well and raise their game. So understanding things of, well, what is GMP? So what are the standards for actually supplying food? What is the standards I need to meet? What insurances do I actually need? What's public liability insurance? What harms could I do potentially with what I am doing, and taking responsibility for that as well. Just understanding that and just getting those basic skills, how to do your accounts, what VAT is and how to actually calculate it as well, which might sound simple to some of our listeners, but to others, they forget about it. They spend all the money that they think they've made and then get this big tax bill, and the tax man's the biggest bumhole since the beginning of time.
Right.
So having that basic skill set is a good idea. So anyone wanting to get into the industry who has been in the legacy side of things, I'd recommend getting some basic business skills, understanding what it takes to run a business. There's loads of courses out there. There's lots of information on the internet, business banking, what are the kind of people you need involved in your business, and understand marketing as well. It's something I really did shun away from because it was like, marketers, they're just bullshit artists. That's all they are. no, you can have the world's best product, and if you're not marketing it right, it's going nowhere.
Yeah, people don't know that it's there. Well, I mean, that kind of goes back to our conversation around learning the skills, but delegating. Because you can't do it all, but you need to know that the person that is helping you knows what they're doing.
Yes. Yeah. Understand how to do due diligence, understanding what the kind of person you need as well, and not being afraid to say no. That's, I don't know about yourself. It's been one of the words that I've always struggled to say. And
Yes.
Say, yes, and try to do it all myself and then burn out. And then George turns up. And anyone who doesn't know who George is the name I give to my epilepsy. So he's the jealous boyfriend. So he turns up. If I go out partying too long, he'll turn up and slap me around the head. I'll have a seizure. That's why I call him George, the jealous boyfriend. But George likes to smoke. Luckily.
That's good. I assume you keep George happy.
I try my best to, but sometimes he can be a bit of an arsehole. 'Tis what it is. It's my way of dealing with my condition. And I talk about it a lot on my Instagram and talk about George and I and what he's been up to and if I've upset him or, if he's decided to turn up or just how to keep him happy. He likes exercise as well, surprisingly. Tries to resist it, but no, when he actually starts doing it, he goes, oh yeah, we like this. This is quite nice.
I think it's important to have a sense of humor.
If you can't take the piss out yourself, who can you?
Exactly. When I was going through cancer, I called my tumor Pepe.
Did you?
Yeah, Pepe the tumor.
As in Pepe Le Pew,
the
skunk. Did he smell as bad?
No, but he was a pain in the ass. But I think that's part of the beauty of our work and the people that we connect with is, we're driven by something that goes deeper than all of us. We're able to have a sense of humor. And I think the common thread is that we're all very inquisitive, passionate people.
Completely. And I find that the people that I surround myself as well with, actually, I then start to sort of mimic them almost and I feed off of their energy. So if I'm around the women here, the Empower Her group, they all uplift one another.
Yeah.
And then I want to uplift other people. And then I can feel myself being more positive and just feeling like I want to help people. Whereas I know I've got other friends from the past that were always negative. The glass was half empty or somebody kicked the glass over and then you felt yourself moaning about the silliest of little things. And they say you become the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And it's really important to think about those people who you're surrounding yourself with and knowing when you get to the point where you try to help someone and you can't help them anymore. And sometimes we do have to cut those strings and it can be painful. And again, back to the business side of things, I think that helped me to learn that of separating business and emotion from one another, because when I first got into it, I really didn't separate the two.
It's hard.
Very.
I think it's hard, especially hard for women, because we're just not indoctrinated into that. Like men, I think early on get more of, business is business.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to create space for everything.
Well, we're caregivers. As I spoke about yesterday, it's about innate behavior within us, not that kind of learnt behavior. Innately, we are the caregivers. We grow a child, so we have to care for that. Our role is to protect that child. And that is what's built into us. It's only in the last couple of, century that we've started going out and working. I'm not saying not working it within sort of gathering food, but I mean actually having careers where we're actually forming companies, we're the ones who are making those decisions. It's only lately, and in some ways I sometimes feel we've been missold it as well, that you can have it all. Can we? Do we want it all? Are we pushing ourselves too much? But we need to make sure that we're also getting the support that we need and not being afraid to ask for that support.
Yeah.
Thinking about, saying, I can do it all by myself. it's far more fun doing it with someone else.
It is. Well, and I also think that the whole you can have it all thing, I agree with you, because I think it actually goes back to that laundry list of things that we're supposed to do to be good, whole human beings. And they were very delegated between the sexes at one point in time. And now it should be more the conversation of there are many possibilities.
Yeah.
Be who you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. But don't burn yourself out.
Don't do it.
That's the big one. And this is what I feel in some ways we're being missold. It is that we are getting burnt out because we're trying to have the career, run the house, make sure everything's in, have children, be a good mum, and everything. I'm lucky enough I've got a fantastic husband, and yourself have got one as well that supports you and helps with all of those and helps to do the housework. And that's not just your job.
Yeah.
And it's I do feel very blessed for a lot of the men in my life. And
same.
I'm thankful for that. I'm making sure every day I'm giving gratitude to things. That's certainly helping my positive mindset.
Yeah. And I'm sure George likes that too.
Yes. Yeah, he definitely does. Even though he can be a bastard. Pardon my French.
You can say that on this show.
It's okay.
What are some things you're excited and hopeful about?
I'm excited about the progression in Europe and what's happening there. We're seeing a wave moving. We've obviously got Germany and their changing of laws and the seeing of adult use. Czech Republic's going in that direction as well. The Swiss model that's coming through as well, that's exciting. And what's just been announced in the US as well, there seems to be a shift of accepting that the endocannabinoid system is something and we need to know about it. And there's this plant that grows that can help with it. I think we're moving forwards in an exciting way. And the movement of women who are moving into this space and how safe they feel as well, that really excites me because we're all coming together and realizing that we don't want to get drunk anymore. We'd rather sit down, skin up and just have a good smoke together or have a gummy or a little bit of mushrooms as well, and looking at it in a more holistic approach where microdosing is a lot more prevalent as opposed to just smashing as many as you can down you to get off your face as much as you can so you're in a mess in the corner.
Right.
And that excites me, that it's about I just want to feel a little bit good, and the women around us supporting that. Yeah, it's exciting times coming, I feel, definitely.
I love that. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. And we are due for a much longer conversation in the very near future.
100%. And thank you for sharing the experience of last night. It was beautiful. It was just, I'm tingling thinking about it.
I know. Let's do it again.
Tonight and tomorrow night?
Yes, it's on. Thank you, my friend.
No, thank you.
Oh, and before we go, I got so excited about our conversation. If people want to reach out to you, find out what you're doing, how do they do that?
Best place is Instagram, look up Dr. Callie Seaman. Can find me on LinkedIn as well. Facebook I'm on a little bit, and TikTok I'm on a little bit, but best place is Instagram to grab me if you want to catch up with me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks there.
And we're back. We are at Hemp for the Future in Reykjavík, and I have Rebecca Abraham, RN, BSN, on the show. She is the CEO and founder of Plesio Health, a pioneering leader in cannabis nursing and holistic care integration with 2 decades of critical care and healthcare policy experience, published research in journals like JAMA and international speaking engagements. She champions nursing-driven innovation in medical cannabis and personalized care. Rebecca, I am so excited for us to talk.
Yes,
thanks for joining
me. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. We have been doing so much. And I'm so excited to be here with you and all of our colleagues and just the great panels and speakers. And just for us to get a sec to kind of sit and talk and, what's going on with you? What exciting things are happening?
Yes. So the most exciting thing that I never dreamed about, like I dreamed about it, I just didn't think it would ever happen, was there is a peer-reviewed manuscript that has been published in JAMA, that's the Journal of American Medicine. It is a multidisciplinary international cohort that got together and there we put together a study and a manuscript that focused on what the baseline learning essentials should be for medical providers. We focused on what people should learn in medical school as a good starting place. I was honored to be invited as a registered nurse on the manuscript. So I always dreamed of being published. Of course, everybody dreams of being in a top impact factor journal. To do it as a nurse, in the cannabis sciences does feel really profound. I get teary-eyed because I'm,
it's a huge achievement.
It's huge. I was even honored to be asked to be part of it before we even knew where it was going. So I'm really thankful to the physicians. It was in collaboration, with many physicians and social workers, I believe, are on the paper, pharmacists. So it's really cool.
That is really cool. I mean, as the child of a nurse, I know how much nurses know and care and how much they contribute to the conversation. And you don't always get the credit that you deserve. So kudos to you for being able to do this. So what do you get into with this? What are you talking about?
Yeah. So from each disciplinary standpoint, we talked about what is the basic knowledge a physician should know and get in medical school to be able to understand medical cannabis. The reason why this paper is important, even though today we are still awaiting more legislation regarding, where is cannabis going to go? What schedule is it going to be? People are still using all sorts of cannabis, medical, recreational, the hemp space, which is all sorts of things. So that is 200 million people plus who have access to something that doctors haven't been engaging on, or any healthcare professional really outside of a few of us. And that's kind of wacky when you think about it, because we now know it's a $1 billion market with millions of people using it. But the entire healthcare industry is just going to pretend like it's not happening. Imagine if we did that with alcohol or cigarettes. Cannabis is different as well because there's very little harm, but a lot of upside. But there's things that could happen with cannabis. So a minimum competency should happen. If we just took alcohol and tobacco, or even what do you eat? What's your diet? Do you exercise? If physicians and nurses stopped asking patients, do you drink? Do you smoke? That would be crazy. We would miss a lot of things. We would miss what to look at when they don't feel good. We would miss how to give them good advice. So this kind of baseline knowledge is really important. Even, I hope, more physicians and more nurses and more pharmacists and healthcare providers see cannabis science and start learning more about the benefits. But at the bare minimum, we at least want them to know it's relatively safe in a controlled environment. Here are the downsides, here are the upsides, because then we could do better for patients.
Yeah, absolutely. I in my policy work, we have some conversations around that, but more often it's, especially in public comment and some of my cohorts in policy that are medical professionals will get more into and it's complicated because they'll be when they're into pediatrics and they're talking about, stopping kids from smoking cigarettes and vaping, very important.
Yeah.
But then they lump cannabis in it without doing any real research.
Yeah.
And that I find very troubling because it's a disservice, especially if, families, parents are having conversations about medicinal use, or just being real with your kids and destigmatizing it so that it's not attractive.
Yes. And what's interesting is, yes, in pediatric populations, for some children who are chronically ill, there can be therapeutic benefit. We also don't want to scare anybody who dabbles in it. as a teen, as teens are going to teen. We don't want to terrify them that they've ruined their brain development for all of time and they're never going to get into Harvard because they took a puff of their friend's mom's joint, right? We don't want to like stigmatize it to that point. But also we have seen in literature as well as in real life, there are many, many patient stories where there are many children who have used medical cannabis. And now they are adults, because in California, I believe we are over 20 years now. And in Colorado, we're over 10 years of recreational, where we've seen the children who used cannabis for their chronic illness, and now they're adults. Many of them are doing very well. In fact, better than they would be if they had more hospitalizations. So that's the other reason why it's for even pediatricians, which is something, we talk to pediatricians. Obviously, we work mostly with adults because I know pediatrics and pregnant women are a whole new scope of medicine I was an adult ICU nurse, so I like to know what I know. But it's even important for pediatricians. Are you going to advocate as medical cannabis as a first-line treatment? It might be less likely just because we know before, about brain development. We think adolescence might be the most critical time for brain development and might be the one place in the life cycle where perhaps chronic cannabis use isn't the best idea. But we don't actually know that 100% yet. But we want to, I think everything in nursing and medicine is what provides the most benefit and the least amount of risks. But the most important thing is informed consent. So we should give people that informed consent. But even for pediatricians, as you can see, look at all of it just rattled off here. There's a full place for them where they should have a baseline knowledge of it so they can help people make the right decision in their care.
Oh, and then have more of a knowledgeable, relaxed conversation, because I know for myself, when I was a kid, if I could have had that conversation with my doctor, maybe I wouldn't, because I was one of those kids that was like, if people are saying it's bad and it's wrong, well, I'm off. I'm curious, because I was just a curious kid, not a bad kid, but a very precocious child.
Yes.
And so, now that we're, and the conversations we're having around legalization and the normalization, it's made it way less attractive.
Yes. And I think I went off on one of my roads of I had a thought and I went with it, but I was that. Going to say,
Go there.
I have children, right? They are school aged right now, but very soon I'm about to have a teenager. And what I tell them, and they know what I do. My daughter, when she was in preschool, used to make me cannabis crafts and just say look, mommy, it's a cannabis button. And I'd be like, this is cute now. I hope you don't get in trouble later. So they've always known what I do and never had the association, but we have sat down and I've always said hey, when it comes time to use cannabis, when that is offered to you, which it will be anytime within the next 5 years, I recommend as your mother recreationally, you probably shouldn't use this before you're 25. And then on the sly, I'll say, but if you used it occasionally, it's probably one of the safest, I don't even want to use it's probably one of the safest recreational, kind of naughty substances that you could use. Talk to me before you do anything, but I don't know how much, I haven't really said too much deep because they're still not teenagers yet. But when I think about their future, please get as high as you want in cannabis. Just it's so much more safer than alcohol. I would rather have you experiment in cannabis than alcohol, because we have seen people die.
Oh, absolutely.
Teens, the first time they use it, I consider things like cannabis and mushrooms to be a separate class of substances. I fear what I consider to be real recreational drugs. I'm like, oh, please don't think cannabis is so uncool that you go for cocaine. Even MDMA, I know there's benefits there. MDMA scares me personally because you have to keep a sodium balance. That's
yeah.
And I don't want to think about hypernatremia.
Totally. Well, and then
anyway.
And then there's that conversation when you have a balanced conversation, and then you get them aware of the fact that their brains are developing, and that they should be mindful about that. And you know, I think it's hard too, because I remember being that age and like not being able to grow up fast enough. And my grandmother saying, one day you're going to want it to slow down.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of eagerness, but I think when you're able to have those balanced conversations with children, they can be more mindful.
Yeah. And I hope that we're moving to a place where it does seem, at least with like the alcohol versus cannabis conversation, it feels like society's moving to a place where like, oh, maybe alcohol isn't as fine as we thought previously. So at least we're moving in that direction. Yeah. But as we can see, this is why it's a vital conversation for pediatricians to have a baseline understanding of like what the endocannabinoid system is, how it works on the developing child. If you have a child with a chronic illness, do you try them on steroids first? Or is medical cannabis maybe something that works? Yeah. And then for adult medicine, there's a lot more room.
Dig into that for me.
Yeah.
I want to know what you were talking about there.
After the age of 25, what we know about cannabis today is there are very few long-term side effects. There are short-term side effects that we can't deny. Most of them are fairly benign. On the more serious side, so like what's the worst that can happen to you if you are on no pharmaceuticals and you use plant-based cannabis? Like let's say you take a gummy that's like 50 milligrams. It's your first time ever. You're probably going to vomit. You might hallucinate.
I've been there.
And you're going to be so anxious and terrified, you might cry. I always joke that you can't die on plant cannabis if it's alone in a silo, you know, assuming you're a pretty healthy adult with no pharmaceuticals. But you will feel like you want to if you use too much that first time. So knowing that it has a good safety profile, some of the long-term things we are just exploring is cannabis hyperemesis syndrome is a real syndrome in the weird place where it is both underdiagnosed and overdiagnosed concurrently, which is very fascinating. So we don't have good data on it, but it is real. And there is potentially some sort of, I think this is rare, is there is a cannabis psychosis that can happen. I have heard and have read one case report where it did seem very legitimate, and it was with high THC use. And then when the THC use stopped, it went away. Those are really the two things we know about today where long-term use can have a negative side effect.
You know, I wonder too with both of those, because we know that, you know, with the endocannabinoid system, how closely tied it is to the nervous system. You know, our as you know, I like to say we're walking chemistry experiments, but I also wonder like how much neurodivergence would come into play with some of that.
Yes. And that's some of the things like cannabis related psychosis it's again at the intersection of like, we don't have any true research on it truly. And once we get into it, we might find out that we were dead wrong. But we don't want to, you know, in my work, I do caution people, like if you have a history or, you know, you're in the brain development age, you know, like be careful because we don't, you know, I always say this is very important for the American public and internationally. But America in particular has a problem with this right now. Correlation in research is not causation.
Yes.
At all. Just because something happens and something else happens doesn't mean it caused it. So in the research, when we look at psychosis and cannabis use and schizophrenia, schizophrenia and cannabis have been tied together. But what I always tell people is schizophrenia develops between the ages of 19 and 35. And when do people use the most recreational, unsupervised cannabis? Like when is the most experimenting happening? And when When are you like a little more like, you know, like, yeah, we'll take high dose whatever every day. Why not? You know, it's when you're in your adolescence or when you're a young adult. So these two things are happening at the same time. We don't know. Actually, with CHS, there's some interesting studies where they're retrospective. We have to look at who's responding, especially in the before time. I always tell people any data we have prior to 2019 might not be the best research because there's a stigma in reporting you used cannabis, particularly before more states legalized.
Yeah.
And so who's already going to be fine with telling people that they use cannabis? Probably somebody who's using a lot more and it's a big part of their life is much more likely to respond than, you know, your 8th grade English teacher. You know,
it's funny that you mentioned that because
so we weren't getting proper data.
Yeah.
So we have this like skewed, like weird data of people who are like totally down with being open about it in a time when it was like very stigmatized. So you probably have people who were like highly consuming who are going to have more side effects than the average bear using, you know, daily under any sort of medical supervision. The medical and nursing supervision didn't even exist until 2010.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioning that reminds me, a very dear childhood friend of mine was an ER doc in Boulder.
Yeah.
And she called me in 2013. And when I was working in the dispensary, she's like, some weird stuff is going on. And I want to see if you've heard anything about this. I am getting young men coming into the ER with cyclical vomiting that smoke or consume high amounts of cannabis. And the only thing that's soothing them is hot showers.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I'd heard of it. And I was like, I have no idea what that is. And then all of a sudden CHS just started popping up on the radar.
Yeah. Yeah. It happens a lot in adolescent males using recreational cannabis. And my hypothesis, so we do not know what causes it. I know there's a theory about, you know, pesticides, oils. I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think it comes with high use without an indicated reason. So our endocannabinoid system is, imagine a gas tank, if you will, and that gas tank goes up and down. If you have a normal endocannabinoid system, especially in your youth, when you haven't experienced too many viral illnesses, hopefully you don't have too much trauma, you know, as life goes on, you experience more of life, there's more trauma, there's more illness, there's more injury. And typically people are healthy as they're younger. So their endocannabinoid levels might be totally stable. This is my hypothesis, but other people have. So I think it's from high use, and I think it's from high use of people who have normal cannabinoid systems and they are not chronically ill. I do think there's a little bit of self-treatment probably in this bundle too, but I feel like people are just burning out their receptors is what's happening, particularly the youth. You know, is it super fun to get high and play video games? Absolutely. Not that I've done that much, but I do like a good Mario Kart here and there. And yes, it's absolutely enjoyable. So you can see how it could be like fun. But if you have a normal endocannabinoid system, then you don't have a high symptom burden. And I do think it burns out the receptors. That's my hypothesis. It seems to be that's the biggest correlation is high THC use that we can find, but not for everyone because there's a lot of high THC use and we don't see it in everybody. I've also seen it happen for grandmas who have been consistently using 10 milligrams to treat their pain for years. It's more rare in that population so far, but it does happen, and it happens rarely, but to people who are using for a very long time, at least some sort of decent sized dose. And it does seem to take a while. I have yet to see anybody take this is where it's overdiagnosed. I have seen doctors who went to one lecture on CHS and they're like, this patient was vomiting CHS. there's cannabis in their chart. And I've had to tell so many doctors, like, please describe your diet. Yeah, like, not to, I'm respectful. Like, please tell me, like, how do you got to this diagnosis? They're like, well, there's cannabis in the chart and they're vomiting. And I was like, well, could it be the pancreatitis they have related to this, this, and this? And they're like, we didn't think of that. Thank you. We see that. I've once seen a high blood sugar, something called DKA. I saw a resident write it off as CHS. And I was like, what here did you see that made you think this? And he was like, oh, he was vomiting. There's cannabis in the chart. I was like, but the labs. He's like, well, the labs are bad. I just thought cannabis did that. And I was like, no, it doesn't cause a blood sugar of 700.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes cannabis does make certain brains go to a direction. It's not intentional. So there's a lot we don't know, but there's a lot we need to know in the cannabis competencies, which is why we wrote the manuscript.
It's so important that we have that. I just, getting that education out there so that our healthcare providers can have support, is so incredibly important. How do people learn more about the work that you're doing, your company, and follow you on social media? And we need to eventually get back to this and talk about it again. We have to have a deep dive.
It is www.plesiohealth.com. Our Instagram is Plesio Health Inc. Plesio Health is pretty much our handle everywhere. And occasionally you can find my Substack and my TikTok is Manic Pixie Dream Founder on TikTok and Substack.
Awesome. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm really looking forward to more of your talks.
Thank you.
And we're back. We are at the Hemp for the Future conference in Reykjavík, and joining me is Dr. Magnus Thorsen. He's a professor and founder of Cannacurious Wellness, known for launching the world's first cannabis entrepreneurship program and advancing wellness-focused, stigma-reducing cannabis education. Magnus, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
You're in the States, but Iceland is your home. How does it feel coming back and doing the conference?
When I left Iceland, I was a freshly minted chef, and I was on my way to a hotel school, and I did that. But now I come back as an academic with a deep focus on cannabis, and it is a different experience. Also, and I hope my home country takes this conference seriously and listens to the message that is being sent out.
I mean, how did you get into cannabis in your work?
Great question. Well, it was actually an accident. I have been at a university for 15 years now, and I've proposed sustainability programs, and it fell on deaf ears. And when cannabis was about to be legalized in Rhode Island, I said, maybe this is going to be the Trojan horse. I'll go and I'll propose a program in cannabis entrepreneurship. And if they accept that, then maybe they'll listen to me about sustainability. And what ended up happening was they accepted the cannabis program, and we were very successful in launching. We had 25 spots. We had 150 applicants for those spots, and we launched with the full program. What I learned was that there is an incredible knowledge gap. And in order for us to open up the market, we need to basically normalize the information. And right now, the information is hard to come by. It's filled with misinformation. So what I've spent the last couple of years on doing is to codify the education and structure it so that it can be usable to consumers.
Where do you think we are in developing the universal lexicon that creates a friendly environment for consumers and just the public at large to just better understand cannabis? And what do you think we need to do to spread that further so that people who so that either if someone goes to a store and they don't see the information they need, that they can be well educated enough with the basics to ask the right questions, or that we create a culture where it's just second nature for retail environments to know, oh, of course we should have all of this.
I created the experience framework, which focuses on what experience people are looking for. Mm-hmm. And I divided it into 3 categories. Right now, the retail market offers recreational and medicinal. And medicinal, we know, is very specific to the individual, does not appeal to the masses. And recreational is for party. And so I've created the tiers of wellness and lifestyle. The wellness tier is up to 10% THC. And it's focused on a gentle relief, sleep, period pain, anything to make the person feel better physically. The lifestyle is about feeling better in your personal life. If you are looking to let go of alcohol, there is products in the range of 10 to 20% that are more approachable, are not going to dull the party, and are all multiple cannabinoids, whole plant, so that you have the CBD to modulate the experience so that you don't have the high peaks. But all of this needs to be articulated. So we have products in the lifestyle that are called composed. And the composed blend is for people who are looking to give up alcohol and want to have a composed experience. We basically take the reported experiences from people at large in the big data set. And we say, what is it that people report is going to make them feel composed? Not too stoned, but just mellow, like you've had a glass and a half of wine, perhaps. And then we articulate that and codify it. And we tell people how to use small amounts first and wait 10 minutes and see what happens. And by doing that, we ease the nervousness. And when people see that the language matches how they feel, they start to trust the information. And codifying and then reassuring people that this is actually based on how 1 million people felt and reported out. So chances are statistically that it's going to be close. Mm-hmm. And as we say, the bioavailability is different for every person, how they are prepared. Were they in an argument, whatever the antecedent to the experience was, needs to be articulated. And if we tell people this is how fast you need to go, then we're not going to get anyone off the rails. So to get back, codify everything, explain it in simple terms, and allow people to experiment with guardrails. Because right now we expect people who have never consumed to go into a dispensary to pick a product from the list of squirrel tail and donkey piss and whatever it is. And we hope that they're going to have a good experience.
Right.
Right. And we give them no other guidance. We say, start low and go slow. What does that mean?
How do we have greater conversations to inform not only policymakers about this, but retailers to have these conversations, open up their menus, and really create that word of mouth to encourage people to come in and explore?
Yes, you touch on a very important topic. So you are right. The economic engine thrives on what sells. And what sells is high THC. And the competition right now is who can deliver the highest THC for the lowest dollar. And that we're effectively killing the market by doing that. So going back to my work, looking at the knowledge gap, I was thinking, how do I bridge the knowledge gap? And I went to dispensaries and I started to talk about, so in order for us to bridge the knowledge gap, we have to be able to point to entry-level products, the barrier products. And they said, those products don't sell. I said, have you tried them? Yeah, they don't sell. We can't sell the low THC flower. And so I had to go out and create those products, because without the complete consumer choice infrastructure, which means choices for consumers of all ilk at every level, so that we can welcome people in, if we don't offer that, we're not going to grow the pie. We're not going to invite people, and we're not going to get our ROI, which I know is the North Star of many of the investors. You're not going to get the ROI if you're just going to continue to needle down the price for your THC. So you have to open up. So I've gone and I'm working with several dispensaries that are coming to see the light. We did a beta test this summer, and we moved more units that we had anticipated in the wellness category that did not exist in that particular dispensary. And we are launching again now with more SKUs, all low THC, all blended cannabinoids with a highlighted terpene profile, so that people can take from it, drink from it what they want. And people can say, I think in this description, I think I can match, this product can match what I need. So if you think about the cannabis industry right now, it's like a liquor store that only sells Everclear for the most part. And people coming in to look for a nice rosé that's going to match their salmon, they're not going to find it. So we need to create those products. And I see it happening in California. I see it happening in Washington, in the more mature markets. But the East Coast is far behind, and people resist the medicine they need, if you will, to be able to open up the market, to be able to invite the consumers that are going to create the velocity, that are going to get them the ROI that they proposed at the beginning of their pitch when they were going to open a dispensary. And we see this with any new technology. It takes a while until you get the early majority to accept the product. And what we need for the early majority to accept cannabis as a solution to their pain points, we need to make sure that we offer products that meet them where they want to be, so that they can come in to the tent and they can enjoy the magic that we know exists in cannabis. It is not a Pangea. It is not a solution to all problems, and THC alone is definitely not the solution.
Yes, completely. I so agree with you. I think that, there's so many people who don't understand that when I had my education program, the biggest thing that I used to come up with against was, I love what you do, but I don't understand the ROI.
Right.
And it's like, it's not a nice to have. It's a must have. And then the next thing that comes up is, well, my bud tenders aren't healthcare professionals and they can't give advice. Well, no, of course they can't, but they can be taught to be navigators, to give essential information that people can use to make their own decisions and also take back to their physicians if they want to have that conversation. Nobody's saying that we want to be treating people at the bar, but we also want to help people navigate a menu. We want to empower them so that whatever dispensary they go in, they can open up that menu and take a look at it and say, I know the outcomes with these, and I'm curious about this. And with my experience, I think that it might be this experience for me. When I was teaching my classes, in order to prove ROI, I had 10 products in each class. I had 7 different subjects that I would teach on. I would always do 10 products that covered all the modes of use that were pertinent to the subject. And I had my buyer put a banner ad on the menu for 2 weeks, because I would teach a class every 2 weeks. Sarah's picks, this is the class. And we'd do a very small percentage off, like something that wouldn't make an impact in the store, but it was just a little additional warm and fuzzy to encourage people. We ran the numbers. I sold more of those products in 2 weeks than all the stores in the chain sold in a month. And if that doesn't prove ROI, if that doesn't prove that formula retail, throw it on a menu and sit back and let people decide, doesn't work, I don't know what does.
Right. And what a lot of operators are overlooking, to your point, is when you get a customer who comes into the store, they already know they're already buying something at your store, but you now open their eyes to this also works for whatever other ailment. You're now increasing the basket size by providing additional information and opening up other possibilities, other applications. No, I only use this after work to calm down and instead of a beer, but I didn't know you could also use this for back pain after I've mowed my lawn and my lower back hurts. If I take a gummy, I'm going to feel a lot better. These things are going to open up the ROI and are going to increase the return on investment for people by increasing the velocity of SKUs. And you can also start to apply some retail theory and figure out what are your movers and what are not your movers, and how can you broaden the spectrum so that you can sell. We are merchants of cannabinoids. We only sell THC. It's like having a crayon box with 64 colors and only coloring with 2. Why? The picture's going to be a lot prettier if you have all these colors. You're going to have a far greater application if you use the colors and blend the motifs based on what you're drawing. If you're going to draw a landscape using yellow and white, it's not going to be a great landscape.
It's funny you said yellow and white, and immediately what popped in my head was orange, red, and periwinkle blue.
Right. So, I mean, and I want to touch on something else you said. Bud tenders are not healthcare professionals, and you talk about education. And in education, we talk about something called scaffolding. And you scaffold the student's learning so that the student knows where they're going and they have sort of a pathway of learning. We need to do the same thing for the bud tenders. We create a scaffold of information to support them in supporting our customers. At the end of the day, we're just supporting our customers by providing the information. And this is what the experience framework is going to do, because people come in and say, I'm looking for something to help me sleep. You're not going to recommend something that's 30% THC. You're going to look at what is in the wellness category after you ask the person, have you used cannabis before? Yeah, once in the 80s. That means you're new to cannabis. So let's start you at a low dose, as low as possible. And we find the lowest, whatever form they want to use, and then we help them titrate. If it's a 5 milligram gummy, let's cut it up in 3 pieces, right? But then you're asking the customer to be a compound chemist and start to split up the portions. Just create the portions to begin with. Yeah. Let's just start with, M&Ms that have 1 milligram or something like that. So create the scaffold for the bud tenders so that they know how to guide people. We do this in the wine industry, in restaurants. Okay, we have 3 new things on our menu, everyone. This new Pinot Noir, we'll tell them, here's the notes, this is the terroir, this is how you sell it. Do we do that in cannabis? Again, there's a lot of things we can learn from pharmacology and from the wine industry in how you explain an opaque product. The wine, you have to taste it too, and then you've already purchased it. Cannabis is very much the same. Mm-hmm. They are what's called a credence good. So like organic apples, I show you 2 apples, I tell you one is organic, but you have to pay $2 more per pound for the organic apple. What else do you need to believe me? I tell you the story of the farmer and the specific species of the apple and what the mouthfeel is and what the sugar content and all the information you could possibly want about the apple. you're now convinced, because I told you about the farmer and the north hills of the So-So Mountain, you now have lots of information. You're convinced that the organic apple is going to be a better experience. Cannabis is a commodity. It needs to be given credence treatment, where you talk about all the elements, you lay them out, and you invite the customer to come to the buffet of cannabinoids and take from them what they want and color with all the damn 64 crayons, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I'll say also is when people say, "Oh, we don't want to create that framework for bud tenders because the turnover is high." Well, guess what? If you haven't engaged your employees, how do they get excited about it? Without professional development, they don't want to stay. And how will they engage consumers in being curious if they're not curious themselves? Wrapping up, what are some things that you're excited and hopeful about in the future?
Well, I mean, the power of the plant is incredible. We need to explain it. We need to lay it out in clear and transparent information that's accessible and available to people, and allow people, give people access to the information so that they can determine for themselves what's going to work well for them.
Yeah.
So I think that's the best thing we can do. I do want to come back to one thing though and share with you, because
Please.
We're in Iceland. Iceland had a prohibition on beer till 1989.
I just read about that the other night.
So before the people who were fighting against beer said that drinking would go up, people would be drunk all day, it would be so easy to drink. And what actually happened was that alcohol consumption per capita went down after we legalized beer, and we developed a drinking culture which didn't exist before, because basically people came out on the weekends, they drank their week's worth of alcohol in 1 or 2 nights, got blasted, felt bad. It was not a great scene. After we legalized and opened up and informed people and started to give choices across the board in beer, drinking went down, culture evolved. I have the same hope for cannabis, that as we lift prohibition on cannabis, as we provide the consumer choice infrastructure that is going to be inviting, and we provide the supporting information so that people can actually step onto the platform or come into the tent, however we want to say that, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to build a better community that's going to be pain-free, and people are going to have a greater autonomy over their own health, well-being, and lifestyle. So I think those are my thoughts on the topic.
I love that. And I love that you brought that up, because as we were talking, I was actually thinking about it, and then it totally passed my mind. But it's fascinating. And for those of you who don't know about it, read more about it, because it also shows politics and policy in action. Because even though beer wasn't allowed, there was Spanish wine because of import issues, and there was also hard alcohol that was still available, correct?
Sure.
So policy doesn't always make sense, and sometimes we make decisions because there are groups that feel strongly about controlling access, and there's placation that doesn't always make sense in the big picture.
And I mean, in Iceland now, I do not have evidence for this direct, but the importers of vodka and spirits fought against legalization of beer for an obvious reason. And it turned out that it was actually true. Alcohol consumption went down as we legalized beer because it was normalized.
And for the greater good.
For the greater good. Better public health. And that is the big winning ticket that we don't talk about enough, I feel, is the social determinants of health are improved in states that legalize recreational cannabis. If we just look at the economic data, the health data, the reported public well-being, it's a win. So prohibition doesn't help.
No. For people who want to learn more about your work and your products, how do they do that?
Well, my website, cannacuriouswellness.com. I have a podcast too. My podcast is focused simply on clear and transparent explanation. So I have mostly physicians and other scientists where we geek out, but try to talk about the products in a simple, basic language so that it's accessible to everyone. And I guess you can Google me, Magnus Thorsen.
Awesome. Magnus, always a pleasure to talk with you. And I hope you come back again. I want to geek out with you more because we could have talked for at least 3 more hours.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And everyone, remember, if you like listening, please give us a review, share it with a friend. Let us know what your favorite episodes are. And if you'd like to stay in touch over social media, we are Planted with Sara Payan on Facebook and Planted with Sara on Instagram and Twitter. You can also go to our website, www.plantedwithsara.com, or listen to us on our parent network, Radio Misfits Network, where there are other great podcasts, like one of my favorites, the Winemakers Podcast. So check it out. You can listen to Planted wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, whether that's Pandora, Spotify, Amazon, Google, Apple, Stitcher, TuneIn. We are there. So join us. And until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, it's a wild world out there. Be good to one another. Until next time, take care.